Oh, you can't hear me because I didn't have my microphone unmuted. That helps. All right. All right. I think I'm up and running here. Cool. All right. Well, welcome to my goofy Regolith install and testing. Just thought I would throw this out there earlier in the week just to kind of run through this. I have no idea. This might help somebody as they're running through the install or using it. I am not a proficient tiling window manager user, so this is a bit of an experience for me. I've used it in the past. Archbang was a thing back in the day, and that was I want to say like the 16 series of Ubuntu, maybe even earlier, but it was a custom Ubuntu spin with, it was never like an official flavor, but it was a custom spin with i3 pre-configured, very pretty. I don't know if, let's see if I can find a screenshot of it. Crunchbang. There's still a distro out there called Crunchbang, but it is not. I don't know. Last time I tried it, it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I don't remember it being like that. But yeah, I mean, it was sort of. Yeah, see, they have it at Bunsen Labs now, and that was not it in the past. I wish I had some screenshots of it. It was very pretty, very flat, very minimal. Sort of the whole point of i3, I guess. But it had. See, I think the thing with i3 is that if you just were to install, like if I just said, install i3, so I'm on Arch, but if I was to search for i3, there's a lot of i3 stuff here, but if I did i3 WM or i3 gaps, and then you can, add in other components, but basically what you get, and I should even just show this real quick, but you just get essentially nothing. There's no taskbar, there's no status, there's really nothing there. And so you talk about getting thrown into the deep end. It's like, if you don't know what you're doing, it's just kind of like, what is this? How do I even use this? So the idea of someone having a curated release, a pre-configured install of i3, and if you've read about or heard about it at all, you'll hear about people talking about their dot files, or if you're on like Reddit, Unix porn, that kind of thing, and they talk about their dot files, and that's essentially it. So once you configure i3, you're using a single centralized config file, and I'll get into that when I jump in, but it is what you basically can use to configure the whole system. And as you add add-ons or stuff like that, you configure them in there, and you can also have like the call in other components. So as you install other pieces, it's your font styles, it's your keyboard shortcuts, it's just kind of everything in one place. And so that's why you'll see people say, using or sharing their dot files, using their dot files, that kind of thing. So yeah, Crunchbang was just lovely, very minimal, very clean, and it had a sort of the middle of the road configuration where it had everything you needed. It had D menu and some other things for launching applications and searching for apps. It had a status bar with a clock, and it showed your desktop in the bar, so you could see how many you had and which one to switch to. And it was all still keyboard based, but it was enough of a starting point that you could easily start using it. Maybe easily is being generous, but you could start using it with minimal amount of pain to figure out what you were doing, how to get around, how to use the windows and tile them and all that sort of stuff. And from there, be able to go and configure and And it really isn't that hard once you start doing it and figure out how it all connects together. Is you basically just make changes in the file, save the file, and then refresh the desktop or the window manager, and then it just reads those and then applies them immediately. So you don't have to log out or anything like that. The only problem with that is it can be unforgiving. If you do a typo or something, all of a sudden your desktop doesn't work, and that's okay. You just drop out to a TTY, and then you can just open the same file, whatever you just did, undo it. And I think there might even be a way to just restore last known good configuration. Maybe not. I might be thinking of something else, but yeah. So tiling window managers, to me, they have a specific place, and they're really useful for certain things. So I think Adam could probably agree to this. If you had a server system, or you're managing servers or headless systems where you just needed some like heads up info, you wanted performance information, you had to have 6 terminals open to kind of see statuses, you're watching the tail of like logs or something that's, status information, you're not necessarily interacting with it continuously, and you're certainly not using it like you would just use a general floating window manager approach, where it's just you're sitting there using what programs you use. And not that you can't do that, but it's just not as familiar to people. So but in those situations where you would be using it for a more dedicated thing, then that makes tons of sense to have things kind of laid out. Because the other thing you can do in that dot file is to configure what applications start where. And even specifically, like, you can script it so that if, let's say I logged in, I can have it auto start and just populate desktops, not just the desktop you're looking at, but several desktops with whatever applications you're using. So if you had, desktop 1 is sort of your home base with all your terminals and, that kind of stuff open, then it would just do that for you. Desktop 2 might be your web browser or some other status, desktop 3, whatever. And you get the point, like, it will automatically do all of that for you. So it saves you a ton of time if it's a repeated process, if you've got a workflow, if you've got a, like I said, monitoring system, things like that. I think the other people that really like tiling window managers are people who are interacting remotely with systems. So SSH, if you're working on servers and SSHing in, that kind of thing. If you are compiling code, if you're editing and developing code, having the ability to have not only split terminals and split screens that are very like logically divided, but also the idea that you can have set desktops for things, and you just make the mental connection of, if I want to see the output of my compiler, I go to desktop 4, switch over there, and it's showing me the build process or something like that. And I want to get back to, the browser to do some research, switch back to desktop 2, that kind of thing. And once you kind of take the time to make it your own and to really adapt it to that process, I think there are just tremendous productivity benefits. And that's really what makes people attracted to this and drawn to this, even though there is that initial amount of needing to learn, because it's different. You have to take the time. You have to realize that it's worth it at the end, or maybe it's not, but at least you give it a try and see if it is. So, hey Vince, what's going on, man? How you doing? What time is it over there? You know what? I never set my my clocks. I usually have multiple world clocks to know what time it is. So, okay, that's enough of my sort of preamble to what tiling window managers are, what the general benefit might be. The disclaimer, and even in Biddle, I was trying to get this across. I'm not sure I was necessarily successful, but what I was really trying to do was, it's different enough, it's foreign enough that I think that the average computer user, let alone Linux, when they see something like that where they can't just grab the mouse and click something and have it launched, you can do that as well. As you can still have a taskbar with launchers. It's not impossible to do those things, but that's not how it works out of the box. You are getting a very keyboard-driven interface. There's not a lot of hand-holding, and it's very foreign and can be jarring and you know, just really not be comfortable. And I think a lot of people, I'm curious to see what the, you know, the folks on Biddle will come up with, but I think there's probably going to be some people that just immediately reject it and don't want to give it a chance. But I think if some people will give it just a few hours, just take the time to kind of feel it out, you know, learn I mean, it's basically 10 keyboard shortcuts. I mean, there's more, but I mean, if you know those like core set of commands, you're going to be able to figure it out. And I mean, it's just like anything new you try. You have to be willing to fail a couple times or be frustrated in order to succeed and move forward. So there's my life tip for you for the day. But it's not for everybody, and I don't use it. I mean, I don't use it on a regular basis because for just using a computer, I really don't need that kind of structure. And I mean, I still use multiple virtual desktops and things like that. But yeah, I think that I'll be disappointed if people just outright dismiss it and just say it's not even worth my time, because I'd like to believe that the folks on the Biddle stream are at least open-minded enough to give it a shot. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong about that. And I'm not saying I would be like, I would think less of people, because people have jobs. I get it. There's things to do. But you've got a couple weeks. So, you know, have an open mind. Give it a shot. It won't kill you. Especially if you do it on a virtual machine. It's not, you know, try it out. You hate it. Fine. Shut it down. Be done with it. Anyway. Okay. All right. So I'm going to create an install. I already downloaded Regolith, and why this thing likes to switch content on me all the time, I don't know. Where's that? There it is. Okay. So Regolith's website, let's just see what their description is. It's a distro for people that prefer a Spartan interface with polished and consistent system management. Brings together a trifecta of Ubuntu's ubiquity, i3 window manager's efficient and productive interface, and GNOME's system configuration features. Okay, fair enough. It's a little bigger. And there you go. What's it look like? It's very Spartan, and they're absolutely right. But see, this is what I'm saying. So they've given you a nice tray here, color-coded desktops, which is nice. You know, some system management stuff, so you can see your CPU usage, power, your battery, date, all that kind of stuff. And then this is what it looks like once you start populating some windows. Now, something you'll hear with i3 and other window managers is gaps. And gaps are not entirely useless, but they're kind of like the bling of tiling window managers, I guess, if I can phrase it that way. Basically, you would take the concept of the tiling window managers that everything is sort of packed together and you're splitting the windows up either horizontally or vertically, and you can create different layouts, but they're all sort of logical divisions of the space on the screen. And if you have enough of them, it does get kind of piled together where it's, you know, it can be a lot to look at. And so you need some sort of visual differentiation between them. And especially when you're looking at a theme like this, which is a dark theme with very consistent coloration throughout it. So there isn't even a lot of separation. And And so you can imagine if this is all packed together, all of a sudden you're not seeing the shapes of the windows anymore as a means to visually differentiate things. You're actually looking at the content of the window, and if it all is the same color, all of a sudden it can kind of start to get blended together. So the purpose of the gaps is to give you a little bit of visual differentiation between those windows. And if you have a background that provides some contrast, then they kind of stand out. And you see in this case, that's what they've done here. But what's a little bit funny is that the gaps are a little extreme. And this, again, it's a tiling window manager, so none of this is like extreme. But when you look at it, usually the gaps will be 5 pixels, 10 pixels. And in this case, they've got a good 30, 40 pixels going on. And hey, you know, that's great if that's that's what you like. The other thing is with usually with tiling window managers, you can actually adjust that on the fly. So there's a way to just hit a key combo and it'll pack space, it'll take space out or put space in. But the other thing I wanted to say was, so you'll see if you're just installing i3 without a pre-configured system like this, there's i3WM. So I showed that when I searched here. You've got i3WM, which is just the basic system, and then i3 gaps, which is a fork of that. And like it says here, it's got more features, including gaps. So that's really the feature, right? Is the extra gaps. And so he's saying, or they are saying, that they're using i3WM. But I wonder, and I want to look at this, I wonder with those gaps there, if in fact maybe they're using the i3 gaps version. So we'll see. So despite its minimal visual design, it provides modern system and file management, which is true. So it has all of the inbuilt tools. I'm going to install the 1904 version of Regolith. There's an LTS version on 1804, and then there's also a 1904. So I'm going to go for the 1904. And they're right. So they're all of the modern sort of tool sets and it's GNOME underpinning. So it's going to be Wi-Fi management, Bluetooth management, file management, all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, hardcore people are probably just going to be doing a lot of that stuff from the command line. Great. But it is nice to have the option for the tools. And then you see, as I was mentioning before, this is D-menu. I think that's what it's called. Or D-run. So this is a way to... Yeah, D-run, I think, is specific commands, and you start typing, and it'll match as you type. And then D-menu is a way to actually have categorized fly-out menus. So again, they're configuring that, and they have that available for you instead of you having to do all that yourself. And I have configured i3 from scratch, and it took a while, because you do have to go get all the pieces, and you do have to put it all together, install everything, configure them, you know. So this is the benefit of using this, is that it's all here for you. And it's a good starting point, because from here you could change themes, you could change gaps, change window keyboard shortcuts, change window placements, like all that kind of stuff. So I think this is the premise of this, and the value proposition, if I have to use that term, would be that you're getting something that's a little bit easier to start with. Hey Matt, how's it going, man? Mensa user, yeah. I don't know if a tiling window manager makes me any smarter. It might have the opposite effect and make me look stupid. We'll see about that. So anyway, I think he does. I keep saying he. I apologize. I have no idea. I think they do a good job of explaining what this is and how it works. And they've done a lot of work on. Oh. All right. There are 2 ways to install this, and I think we touched on this a little bit on Biddle, but you can either do the live install CD, which I said there's an 1804 version and a 1904. And then you can also do a PPA for any of the 1804, 1810, or 1904 releases. Yeah, Matt, it's going to be interesting. I think you missed the beginning a little bit, but I'm curious to see if our if our Biddle folks are going to be into this. I suspect a lot of people will probably just say, you know, give it a Zeb special and say pass or next. I'm sorry, next. But and he himself, I think he said he spent 2 hours with it today, and that was sort of his limit. Which, hey, you know, again, that's fine. But anyway, he and others, I'm sure, will not be interested, and that's okay. But I think it would be nice for everybody to just give it a shot, just to try. All right. So after we get installed, we'll jump back here to the next steps. So let's go ahead and just jump in. I'm going to create a new machine. Up here. And I think it was 1.1. All right, it does not know what that is. Linux, Ubuntu, 64. I'll give it 4 gigs of RAM. Why not? Probably won't need it, but. And I'm assuming 25 gigs is more than enough. Yeah, Matt, I agree. The Ubuntu GNOME underpinning, yeah, I think it's going to give people a more usable system because they'll have a lot of the stuff sort of out of the box. And if you're using dmenu, you're going to be able to have access to all of those familiar tools from the file manager through system maintenance and stuff like that, installing packages. And there's, you know, it's interesting because I think people can kind of take a hard line where they see using a tiling window manager as being an all or nothing proposition. That if you're using a tiling window manager, you are, you know, you're going to only use a terminal. You're only going to use terminal-based applications. And the reality is that you don't have to run it that way. I mean, you certainly can. And if you're going like hardcore, then, you know, fine, go for it. But the reality is tiling window managers run floating window applications, if you will. They're fine. It's just that you don't have the drag and drop and, you know, resize with a mouse. You can move them, right? You can resize them. You can make them take full screen or part of a screen. But the thing is that a tiling window manager wants to use all the available space all the time until you add something new in. So if I were to open Virtual Manager in there, a VirtualBox in there, it's going to go full screen all the time. Now, there is a way to override that, and you can actually set windows in i3 to be floating windows, because sometimes it just makes sense. Otherwise, it's kind of stupid to have a little dialog box take up the whole screen. So certain things can spawn as floating windows. But by and large, that's the sort of visual and functional paradigm of the tiling window managers, that it's taking up all the space and then just dividing it up logically as you add more things. All right, so just go ahead and get this started up. So Vince, yes, it's interesting with GNOME settings. Most i3 I've seen uses XFCE tools. Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Actually, I found Regolith allows resizing floating windows with a mouse. Oh, cool. We'll take a look at that. All right. So here's the familiar Ubiquity installer, and you can try it live especially if you're on a real hardware. You know, I'm just obviously doing a virtual machine here, but if you were doing real hardware, you'd be able to just test it out live. I'm gonna go ahead and install, and this is just the dead stock standard installer for Ubuntu. There's nothing new or different here. Yeah, you know what, Matt? Not only Ubiquity, what I've noticed is that whenever you boot, the login screen is just GDM. You know, it's the purple Ubuntu. Literally, just they didn't spend any time on that, which fine. This was sort of like a initial release kind of thing, and like, why would you spend much time on that? But as far as I know, this is like one person doing this, so you got to figure like better that they spend the time putting effort into getting everything else working. I'll worry about the login manager later. All right. Oh, that Disco Dingo logo, that wallpaper. I think I liked it when I first saw it, and I don't know anymore. I think maybe I was actually staring at and evaluating it earlier, having one of those far away, staring off into the distance moments, and thinking, it's a howling dingo with the Beats headphones on. I don't know. I guess I'll just leave it there. Yeah, hey, look, Ubiquity, right, Matt? Props to them. I'd be like, nope, yeah. Oh well. So, yep, this is the Ubiquity installer, all right. There it is. So what else is going on? So what do we had Tony saying it was 3 o'clock in the morning and thinks he's heading to bed, popping in for a minute to support Eric. I appreciate that, Tony. I really do. I'm just getting started, like I said, and the more you fools egg me on, the more likely I am to continue this nonsense. It is enjoyable, though. It really is. I say this every week on the Biddle stream, and I'm being sincere when I say it, that like I enjoy interacting with this community probably more than just about anything else I do in life anymore, other than spending time with my daughter and my wife. But outside of like the insulation of my own little bubble in my family, like in terms of social interaction and just people I would choose to spend time with and hang out with, it's definitely this group of people. Like I've had, you're gonna see, so my episode of Linux Spotlight comes out Wednesday, and that was something that Rocco and I got into quite a bit about the community. And I've been using Linux for 20 years. I mean, I would say possibly longer, but I think it's about 20 years at this point. And I was aware of communities and places, on the internet that I could go, and I certainly did for research and to get information. But the reality is that, I did not engage. I really just didn't. I didn't see a need. I saw a lot of negativity and a lot of people that were doing things that I did not. I don't know. I'm not like a purist or anything, but I really felt like I wasn't going to get anything meaningful out of those social interactions, right? I wasn't going to. I just didn't see a point in putting myself out there and talking to people that I could tell were already just judgmental and hostile and all the rest of it. And I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, but it just was never something that interested me whatsoever. And and then I found this crew, and I mean, I have to say that it's really been such a positive experience for me to interact with all of you, to meet you, to learn who you are, to learn the personalities, all of the things that have kept me, that got me engaged in the first place with this group, and then has kept me engaged as I've gone on. So, I mean, it's just such a cast of characters, and it's a group of people that genuinely seems to have an interest in meaningful conversation and not just look at me and what I'm doing, or you know, I don't think what you're, you know, whatever you're saying is not what I'm interested in, so it's wrong. I know I'm rambling, but it's just, it's a special thing, and I think a lot of us realize that, and it's something that I've wanted to support and be a part of, and you know, working on the website, setting up discourse, just that kind of stuff it's the stuff I know how to do, and it's the stuff that I felt like I could contribute and make a difference doing, and I couldn't be happier that people seem to be really, you know, enjoying it, engaging with it. So it's a little sappy, I know. Matt's probably rolling his eyes in the back of his head now, but you're part of it too, Matt, whether you like it or not. Part of what makes the group special. Oh, you guys get all chatty on me. Yeah, you agree finding the right group of people can make the difference. Yeah, it totally is true. It's absolutely true. I mean, I've been part of a couple gaming communities in the past, and same deal. I had, you know, one or two that were just really great people, and we had a lot of fun together. And then I tried to join and be part of other groups that just, you know, I mean, it was completely pointless, and it left me wanting to pull back and get away from it more than anything else, and that's just a bad situation. So yeah, Vince, some trepidation responding the first stream. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Vince, like I watched probably 3 or 4 episodes. I think you've probably been hanging out a little bit longer, but I watched 3 or 4 episodes, and I really just started to feel a connection with people in a way that I normally don't, just watching content. And really, I just felt like I wanted to talk to these people. You know, I wanted to get in and be a part of it. And that's really where I ended up. I mean, I just felt like I had to jump in and say hi. And once I did it, I was like, yeah, do I want to do it again? And I did it again, and just sort of stuck with it. And then I got on Telegram, and then you know, it just, now that I'm doing it, like I couldn't imagine not having that opportunity to see everybody and at least say hi. I might not have something to contribute. I mean, I'm a big mouth, so I'm going to say something anyway, but I may not have something meaningful that I'm going to bring to the conversation, but I at least feel like if I get the chance to come in and say hi to people and just, it's so dumb, but just like that, I appreciate the fact that throughout the week I can engage with people and have an outlet and talk about things that I enjoy talking about, because as most of you probably know, the rest of the world doesn't know anything about, or really couldn't care less about Linux, and not even just Linux, like technology in general. So all right, we are rebooting. You're the vulgar uncle who sits on the back of the family reunion screaming obscenities. You know what? What would the world be without the vulgar uncle? That's what I ask. Because it's not a world I want to live in, Matt. Sometimes also feeling you've got something to contribute holds some back. Yeah, you know, sometimes they're the ones that I really want to get. Yes, so it's funny, and Rocco said this last night, even after stream. I swear he says it every time, but he will bring up a topic to solicit conversation, and people don't say anything, and then keeps trying to get people to fire, you know, to connect and with an idea and like get people motivated and engaged, and then inevitably at the end of the stream, he's come up with some idea that people get fired up about, and then it's like, well, now we have 5 minutes left to talk about it. And you're right. I think so the other side of that, the flip side of that, is that people sometimes feel like if they're going to partake or participate in something like that, that they have to bring something, that they can't just be there, be social, be part of it, and just enjoy the company. And I think that's a little unfortunate, because really, I don't think there's an expectation that everybody is going to like for distro review. I don't think everyone is expected to have pages of notes or have spent hours and hours and hours testing something. If it engaged you and it was something you were interested in, great. That's fantastic that you found something you were interested in, or you had the time to do it, or the energy, or the initiative, whatever. And if you have something to share, great. But I don't think you should feel like you're failing in some way because you didn't have an in-depth review. It's enough to say, like, I just didn't have enough time, or I had enough time to fire it up and just kind of kick it around a little bit, but I didn't really use it that much, and I'm not going to give a strong opinion one way or another because I just didn't get a chance to try it. So, yeah. So I think that we would probably get more people that would be happy to just jump in and say hi, and maybe show their. And I know people don't like to come on camera too. Some people are shy about that, and I don't blame them. But to just even come in and say hi. It was so great to see you, Vince, last night, and to see Tony, and to some of these new people that aren't new people. They're people we know, but there is something definitely tangible about the idea of seeing someone's face and hearing their voice and being able to have a direct conversation. And I can't tell you, like, I had a big dumb smile on my face because I've never seen you, but we've chatted so many times just in passing on chat and stuff like that. And so to see you join was really cool. So I hope you do come back and hang out. Matt, of course, according to some people that do not like me, I contribute nothing to the community. I guess I got to start finding substance to point out. Hypocrisy is something to point out. Being a blowhard know-it-all is something to point out. I mean, I don't think there's I don't think it's wrong. And it takes, I think it takes a special certain kind of someone to be willing to put themselves out there to say, like, hey, I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't like it, and I'm going to tell you about it. Not only you, but I'm going to tell other people about it, because other people either believe what you're saying or may misconstrue what you say as being the actual truth and not just an opinion or an editorial. And it's funny because you think about like newspapers and publications. When someone wants to give an opinion, their opinion is their own. They can write an editorial and say whatever they want. There's no problem with that, as long as you say this is an editorial, this is opinion. The problem with technology, and I know this is near and dear to you, Matt, about tech journalists and stuff like that, is oftentimes they're going to say they're going to represent something as being true or being a fact. And the reality is that it is either their experience or their opinion, which does not encompass the entirety of what you can consider truth and stuff. So anyway, yeah. So yeah. All right. So Regolith, here we are. Hey, I've seen this welcome screen before. All right. No reason for location services. You can add your accounts. Don't need any of that. What? There are updates? Oh, 367K of updates. That's not bad. All right. So Regolith, whenever you boot in, does give you this handy little cheat sheet, which is, I guess it's a pinned floating window because it's not part of the it's not part of the wallpaper. But if you dismiss, you can either get to it or dismiss it by, I believe it was super shift. Well, it should be here. Super shift question or super question. Where is it? At the bottom. Toggle this window. Super question. Oh, you know what I've noticed? So if you're using a virtual machine, if you don't capture the keyboard, so I have it turned off in my settings that I don't like when a machine captures my keyboard. So this auto capture option, by default, that auto capture is on. Oops, I'm in the wrong dang window. All right, sorry. So under VirtualBox preferences, under file preferences, if by default the input key is set to auto capture keyboard, that bugs me. I don't like that it does that. I'd rather manually switch it, and so I disable it. But what I've noticed is if you disable it for some reason, not some reason, so Regolith won't register the super key unless you capture the keyboard. And if you have it turned off like I do, the way that you actually capture it is by hitting the right control key. And now that it's captured, if I do that, it's going to work. So if you're testing this in a virtual machine or in VirtualBox specifically, and it doesn't capture the keyboard, or if the host OS is capturing those inputs, some of these keyboard shortcuts, or maybe all of them, aren't going to work for you. So don't get frustrated. I saw someone in Telegram earlier saying that the keyboard shortcuts weren't working for them. And that, I'm pretty sure that's what was going on, was that if you're using super and the underlying host is not passing that through, then it's not going to work. And being that this is keyboard driven, I'm sure that's a pretty frustrating experience. And there's probably people that have tried it and just said, yep, doesn't even work. The keyboard didn't even work. They're on the screen and I tried them, it didn't work. So just know that you have to capture the keyboard. The other thing is some of these, I believe, were case specific. Yeah, like super E. I know someone was saying super plus E. And if you if you don't hit super shift E, because it's capital E, then it won't work. And I think I probably just did a dumb thing there, but maybe it just locked it. We'll see. I probably just killed the update process. Yep. So you guys can come watch me make mistakes. All right, I assume that is not going to finish now. So if I hit super enter, isn't it? Yes. It gives me a terminal. And let me guess, there's going to be a lock probably. No, maybe not. Okay, well, let's see if it works. No, upgrade, fool. Already did that. Okay, no locks. I guess I didn't break it. So I'll try harder. All right. So Matt, you enjoy Biddle when you're able to join, and the welcome screen looks just like familiar. Yeah, I don't know why. That cheat sheet, yeah, it is amazing, and it is definitely something that you can refer back to over and over. What's up, baby? Okay, hang on. Turn off the wrong thing. Okay. Daughter's second week of school's coming up. She's still not used to normal school bedtime hours, so she keeps getting up and wandering around. All right. So back to the update. All right. So let's see. Like now there are 8 people watching, only 3 chat participants, including Eric. Say hi to people. Don't bite that hard. Is there snap support? Good point. Why don't we check? So snap list. Hey, there sure is. You know why? Because that's going to be 1904 base with GNOME. Yeah, pretty much at this point, I think it's a foregone conclusion that if you're using an Ubuntu base with GNOME, you're going to be seeing these packages because these are the same ones that they are including. So the system monitor logs, calculator. I noticed that when I installed Cinnamon on top of Ubuntu, there were multiple entries for certain things like calculator and system monitor. I'm like, why would Cinnamon have installed a different GNOME calculator? And that's what it was. It's because Cinnamon did install the package of GNOME calculator, but the snap was already there as well. So you had both entries. So I have to say, man, they're gonna have to do something to impress me with this. I'm not saying snaps are bad. I'm not saying that I have a problem with what they're trying to do. I just think it's going to get confusing that if I don't know to check for a snap, and I don't know to look in the software center to see what's already installed, or if I don't, while I'm using a package manager, looking to see what's there as a snap, because if I just did like I use dpackage to see what's installed. So get selections, if I could type, get selections, and then I'll just grep, calculator. And it's not found. So obviously GNOME calculator is not installed, right? Except that it is, because it's installed as a snap. And so the fact that snaps and Flatpaks, I mean, I'm not just picking on snaps, the fact that those things can be available on your system yet not show up in the default package manager, I think is still a problem, because it just makes it more difficult to see all of those things. And I think the effort that they've put forth and the emphasis is on having these software centers act as sort of the bridge or the portal to see all of the stuff that's on your system, right? And that's great if you're going to use the software system all the time, but I don't use it. And I know a lot of other people don't use it. And also, none of them are perfect, because if you search for software, it doesn't sort it properly in a lot of cases. So, that doesn't necessarily help. Let's see if I can get the, so what is it? Okay. Quit. There we go. What's the D menu? I know it's here. Super shift space. All right, so let's see if GNOME software. Yeah. So yeah, if I come in here and I search for calculator, this may not be the best example. Oh, okay. It isn't the best example because it actually sorted it properly. If you Telegram, I think is a good example. If I could type this theme, there's not enough contrast for me. I can tell you that already. This is hard for me to read. So we've got Telegram CLI, Telegram whatever, Telegram desktop, And if I keep scrolling, hey, look, another Telegram desktop. So what is the sorting here? And even better, there's no way for me to sort. I could sign into Ubuntu One if that's still a thing. I didn't think it was. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but I mean, it just, the basic functionality of this, if I search, like, please give me a way to sort alphabetically. Please let me filter by whether it's a native package or whether it is, you know, a snap or for the, at least if I don't even get a choice to sort, at least show me things in order. Sort them for me so that it makes sense, because I know this is probably what this is the package, the 1.15.1.5.11 package. And if I go up, then this one is probably the snap. Yep, snap store. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to get off on like a crazy tangent or a rant here. I just, if the idea is you've pre-installed snaps for me as part of the base distribution, and I have no obvious way to see that, I know I can come to install, right? And maybe that's the way I do this, except that those types of packages like the calculator, they don't float to the top because they're not a first class application, or a, maybe not first class, they're not a desktop focused application that like gets the people ever install outside of just what comes with the distro usually. So, you know, there's calculator as like come down. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being stupid about this, but that to me is really frustrating. And I'll say that Discover is exactly just as bad as this. Maybe they've added some filtering, I don't know, and maybe they've added some categorization, maybe they're getting better with that, but at least the last time I remember using it, it wasn't any better than this. So there you go, rant over. That I think that's a problem, and I think that's part of the reason that people are not happy about it. So let's see. Just want to check back on the chat. So yeah, the stupid conch key is misleading if you doesn't include the shift key for capitalized letters. Yeah. Deepin is the only distro to get that right as far as the universal packaging. There's a Debian Flatpak will tell you. You know what? Also, so this is a feature in the new version of Cinnamon. The menu, Cinnamenu, or I don't know if it's actually called whatever it is. It will, if you have multiple versions of something installed, it'll at least call out and say, you know, one of them is just the package, and then the other one will have in parentheses, it'll say something like Flatpak, because they include Flatpak by default. So if you were to if you happen to have both of them installed for whatever reason, it will at least differentiate it in the menu. So maybe that's a step in the direction. So Dave, what are you doing here? That's fantastic. David Perchinsky is my fantastic cousin, essentially my long lost brother from another mother. He's fantastic. He is not a tech guy, and he's just here probably to either support me or troll me. I'm not sure which, but he's awesome, and I love him dearly. He's like top 3-4 people favorite in my life. You know, he's up in there. All right. So here we are in lovely Regolith Linux land. Here, look at my beautiful face. Boy, you sure are disappointed, aren't you? I think the last time you saw me, I had a clean-shaven face, so This is my evil twin look. All right. So yeah, this is what you get out of the box, and like I said, it's nice because you're at least getting that starting point. Let me switch back to the. Oh, let me switch back to the website because I wanted to see the next steps. Where the heck is that? There it is. All right. So next steps, have a look at the Get Starting Guide to learn more about using Regolith Linux, see the latest updates, or check the configuration page to learn how to tweak your liking. I think those are all good things. I'm going to look at all of them. Open the configuration and test pages in new tabs because that's how I do things. All right, so configuring X resource facility to define colors, fonts, and themes. They can be customized in your home directory and are designed to be easy to understand, modify, and reset. Well, that's nice. The default Regolith X resources file, etc Regolith styles root, and to customize it, copy it to X resources Regolith. Okay. You know what? I'm cheating. I just realized I'm cheating a little bit. I'm using my floating window manager to read this stuff, and you know, I really should just jump in and be using the tiling window manager. So I'm doing it. I'm going for it. Here we go. Okay, so to what was it? Control Shift or Control Super? No, Shift Super Space. Do Firefox. No, that's okay. I was going to say it's interesting that it wasn't opening the full screen because that's the whole point. I thought maybe it was going to leave space for that that other window, which it didn't. So interesting. All right, so let me go to Regolith and we'll go from there. Wow, is that hard to read? I'll be changing the theme as soon as I possibly can. All right, and you know, you see me using, well, you don't see me, but I'm using the keyboard to launch windows to move things around. But like Vince said, I mean, we still have mouse control, and we can't grab the window necessarily and move stuff around because it's not in the tiling format. Look at the contrast. That is shameful. Sorry to keep harping on it, but God, that's hard to read. Anyway, so you can still though grab your mouse and you know you can scroll and click things. I mean, it would be kind of stupid and pointless if you couldn't do that. Oh, help if I put Linux in there because Regolith is a thing besides Linux. All right, and let's get back to where we were. Get started. Latest updates. And configuration. Actually, I want to look at latest updates first. Regolith announcement mailing list now. Places subscribe. Yada yada yada. Excuse me. Active development tasks. Adding a shutdown menu. i3 snapshot to save and restore window layout. That's really cool. Yeah, so that's what I was saying earlier, where if you had a specific set of tasks and stuff that you wanted to always have opening up, that's probably going to let you lay things out the way you want them. And then instead of the way it is now, or at least the way I've used it in the past, is you literally have to define line by line in a config file how every single window, and if that's 20 windows, I mean, that's a lot to manage. So what I'm hoping this means in my ignorance is that it actually means that you can set everything up the way you want and then actually save a snapshot of that as a config file or as a way to restore that. That would be wicked cool. All right, ARM platform. Yeah, so they are using gaps. I knew it. That's what I figured. future themes. Okay. Well, I mean, it's good to see that they're still doing some things, and this is as of July, so that's great. I mean, they haven't had a release since, I think that was like May, or even, it might even been older, on SourceForge. So it's good to see that they're still doing some work on this. Be kind of dumb of us to spend 2 weeks testing a distribution that doesn't get updated ever again. Sure, wouldn't be unprecedented, but it wouldn't be great. Oh my! All right. Yeah, the gray on dark blue. Yeah, it's very difficult. I like dark themes, but even that's too much. Yep. Hey Matt, how's it going, man? I like that they didn't configure gaps straight away, though. You know what? I honestly, from that screenshot, I'm not sure, because if I open, let me see. Oop. No, you're right. Okay. I don't know why, but I thought that they had, I guess you can increase the gaps and make it look like that, but you're right. I hadn't realized that they, so that's kind of a shame, because from the screenshot, you would think, where is it? Oops. Well, anyway, the screenshot that they have on the homepage is really, I mean, it shows those huge gaps in there. So maybe that was just sort of an exaggeration to say, hey, look, we've got gaps. And if you want, you can make them huge. List of key bindings here. That's super handy. Launching programs. So in most instances of tiling window managers, at least that I've seen, like the super and enter is sort of like that pop-up, you know, that's how you get your console really quickly. But this is where the GNOME pieces come in, right? You've got Bluetooth displays, network. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, here's your display. So yeah, I agree with that being, that's a really cool sort of underlying, it's just going to make it easier to manage your system, stuff like that. So I noticed that they don't have, so it's got sound here as a separate configuration option, but I don't see it. I mean, maybe I just can't see it because the contrast is so bad, but you can actually put sound and different controls in the bar itself. So that's probably something I would do. So, all right. I hate to sit here and read through all of this in front of you guys and waste your time. I'm probably going to do a stream a little later in the week, maybe, to once I've had a chance to come to terms with this and be a little bit more well-versed and educated, that I can do something that's hopefully more useful. This was really, I haven't looked at it. I wanted to just get together and take a look at it and just talk, and I missed you guys. Wanted to see you. No, I think one of the things we lack, right? So we talked about the idea, or I talked about the idea that we pick a distribution and then we just expect everybody to, in their own time, to grab it, to understand how to install it and do everything. And I think a lot of the people on the stream are completely capable of doing that. But I also think that it could be helpful to have a session, either like an open session or a live install session or something, where someone can demonstrate. And you know, Colin does a good job of those, and some other folks do a good job of showing the install process and going through it. But unfortunately, I think, and this isn't always true, and it's not even really a criticism, but they're happening later in the week, and so it's kind of hard for people to, I guess, get started. Now that we've gone to 2 weeks, maybe it's not going to be as big of a difference or big as an issue. But you know, I think I want to. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to try to do it sooner rather than later, to give folks a chance to benefit from my own stumbling through this. So yeah, I'm just going to read through some of this real quick and just try to jump around and do a couple basic tasks, because I think that's what how they're going to try to use it. They're going to come in, they're going to, you know, try to do the three things that they always do whenever they use a computer, and either they're going to succeed at that or fail at that, and whether they get frustrated and walk away from it, that could be what happens. But based on that assumption, I mean, I've already figured out how to launch Firefox, which is good. I know how to launch a terminal, which is good. And the thing I want to know now, because I know the thing you need to do. See, this is the problem with having that cheat sheet be something that you can't just pull up on the screen, because it doesn't. It's there. You can actually see the scroll bar. Oh, if I switch back to the window that you can actually see. Sorry, guys. I'm such a stream noob. All right. So you could actually see. Oh, somehow I figured out how to switch desktops. What did I just do? Control Shift. Nope. What did I do? Control Shift 2, 1. Oh, that's right. It's there we go. Okay, so it's super key and then a number. You can see in the bottom left as I do that, it's flipping through all of the desktop windows, and oh my goodness, guys, so sorry. Okay, so it's flipping through the windows as I use the super key. My underlying desktop keeps, you guys can't see it, but it keeps interfering. Okay, so you can flip through desktops that way, which is cool. And the other thing you notice is that I believe it has 20 desktops to find by default, but you don't see them all until you actually load into them. The other thing is, each time you move away from them, they will actually close themselves and just show the desktops that have content. So I'm on desktop 1, and then I switch to 2, and there's my content 3. So 2 stays there because I've got something open. If I open a terminal on 4, and then I switch to 5, 6, 7, so you see now I have 2 and 4. So it's giving you that visual indicator that you can get to those things. And that's actually really cool, because if you had all 20 of them, it would be, you'd have no idea like where is anything. At least in this case, if I've got them, even if they're not sequentially numbered, I still have an indication of, oh, well, let me go to 8 and see what's on 8, or let me go to 4 and see what's on 4, or 2, whatever. So that's pretty cool. All right, I've learned how to switch desktops, so now I'm dangerous. Meta shift and then a number is, or no, meta control and a number is the higher number above 10 desktops. So control meta 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to flip me up through those. So let me get back to 1 with just meta, or 2, meta 2, meta 3, meta 4, meta 4. Pay no attention to me, it's Sunday night. I'm gonna look back at the chat now and stop being, I'm getting delirious here. Okay. They didn't include a key binding for Nautilus. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess you could just create one. Yeah, Matt, you're right that it's in one continuous list. right, so now I know how to change desktops. So where I was going with that is that now I can call back the cheat sheet, because that can be on a desktop. So if I go back to 2, 3, see it's behind, it's always behind. You just can't see it. So I can toggle it off and on, or you could just leave it on a desktop. It started me on desktop 2. And I think somehow I moved a window to desktop 3. This is terrible. Yeah, there we go. I'm on 2. Okay. Now that I've thoroughly confused everybody, those are sort of the tenets, right? So the things you have to learn and come to terms with the tiling window managers, you're going to use desktops. I know a lot of people don't use virtual desktops on any operating system. You know, they didn't have it in Windows forever, and they finally added it. And someone like me couldn't have been happier, because I actually had a third-party add-on to include desktops, virtual desktops. I've always used them on Linux, but I know a lot of people don't. And you really kind of have to, because again, that idea that if you open any application, it just takes up the whole screen by default. And so, you know, you can continue to open them, right, ad nauseum, to a point that it's almost ridiculous. But at no point are you going to be able to necessarily take them, you know, reposition everything in a way that you can with a floating manager. So the premise is always going to be that you switch to a different desktop to do a different task. Is it a hard and fast rule? No, probably not. I'm sure there are some people that will happily keep opening and closing windows like that. You know, I've got a terminal and I'm going to open it and do something, and then I'm going to close it and open something else. You can do that, I guess, but honestly, like, that's what virtual desktops are for. It's not that hard to just switch back and forth, and especially if you know what's where, and if you always are being consistent about my browser's on desktop 2 and my terminal's on desktop 3 and whatever, it becomes sort of muscle memory at that point to just go back and forth. All right, so I've mastered desktops. I have launched some applications. Let's see if I can remember what that was without the cheat sheet. I believe it was space. That's your D run. And then it was shift space to run. All right. So this is what I was saying with Metaspace. So the D run menu, this is categorized just like a normal menu would be. And so you can still search from here, but you can also see all the different categories of software. So this is I'm just using the mouse keys to browse through this, although I guess you can use the mouse wheel as well, which is fine. I'm going to go to settings because I want to see if I can change this. Oh, it's GNOME. I have to go to tweaks to do that. Do they have tweaks installed? No. All right, my first task is open terminal, and I'm going to install GNOME tweaks. Yeah, I'll do tool. Or no, I'll just do tweaks. It's a little interesting that they did a custom theme on here and didn't include that. You know what? I'm being an idiot. That's not gonna change the desktop, is it, Vince? It's not. I'm gonna have to do it from within the Regolith config file, the i3 config file. I'm gonna do this anyway because it's the path that my mind was on, but I know it's not right now. So that's why it's not installed. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think maybe I'm right. Ooh. But it's not going to change my terminal. Nope. So I did need to do tweaks for that part of it, though. Okay. And because I know everybody loves Adwaita, No, I'm kidding. Well, we'll do Yarrow just because it's here. And I know you probably don't like Yarrow either, but good lord, at least now I'll be able to read Firefox and use the controls. Yay! Okay, so I did need tweaks for the GNOME applications to recognize a new theme. You know what? Let me go back in there real quick. Shell. Nope, they don't have shell. And okay, so all right, that improves life a little bit. But yeah, I think for new terminals, so I'll just quit this one, or now I'll just open a new one. Yeah, it's gonna keep that configuration, and that's fine. This isn't actually that bad in terms of contrast. And my GTK apps now at least have a usable theme. Okay, so besides desktops, which are hugely important, splitting windows. So one of the things I need to learn right now is how do I switch between tiling sideways or horizontally and tiling vertically. And I think it's where is that? Super F looks like it might be the one. Is what it's saying is floating window mode toggle, and I think the mode is whether it's horizontal or vertical. So let's do what was that? Super F. Okay, so Super F. No, maybe not. Okay. All right, so here we go. Progress. Super Shift F turns this into a floating window. But it wasn't what I was looking for. Yeah, this is... All right. If at first we don't succeed. Super F, that is not... Vince is probably already yelling at me in the chat. Let me look real quick. When I start doing vertical, horizontal, and nested tiling, and then I can start posting the Linux poem. Yeah. I think they want you to use X resources. Yeah, I think you're right, Matt. They do, but it's interesting that because they're including, I mean, that's one of the features is that they're saying they include the GNOME pieces. So if we go back up here to the top, it's a trifecta of Ubuntu's Ubiquity, i3 Window Manager, and GNOME system configuration features. So they're using GTK GNOME apps, and obviously by using tweaks, those apps are now reading the theme. But you're right. Maybe there's. I am admittedly not well versed in this, so it could be that the X resources, that's kind of my next step. Under configuring here, I wanted to just get through some of the basic, like navigating around with the default system, but definitely I want to get into the X resources to be able to, customize keyboard shortcuts, stuff like that. But I'm trying to use it as is, just for the moment. So Vince said Super Shift F. Because you need that's floating. That's floating. What I was looking for, Vince, was toggling between horizontal and vertical split. Toggle next window, layout orientation. So layout orientation is there, but it doesn't. Oh, maybe this is the sub. resize, exit, focus. Where is it? I apologize if I'm being blind and it's like literally right in front of me. You know what? I'm going to go to the web page and look at the key bindings. Because I think I'm just being dumb here. There it is. Win backspace. Why is that? Was I not seeing it? Super backspace, toggle, next window, layout, orient. Oh, it's too... It's on a separate line. That's what threw me off. So dumb. Okay, so the point of super backspace and toggling the layout was, if I come back here, by default, if I just hit super enter, it's going to keep toggling vertically. No, I guess horizontally. Yeah, horizontally. And what I want is, so let's say I want one large terminal on the left and then this one split vertically. So if I do super backspace, and it's hard to see, but there's actually a blue line now at the bottom. And that tells you that now it's going to split this way. So when I hit enter again, now it's going to give me a window like that. And it will keep... It will change that line. It's really hard to see, but it's here on the edge. Let me try doing that as a full screen share, so maybe you can see that a little easier. My dumb head's in the way here. Let me do it that way. Can you see there's like this little blue line there? And if let me just... Let me close one of these. So you can see the blue lines here on the bottom, and as I hit backspace, it actually shifts over to the right. And that's your visual indicator of where it's going to split. So if I hit this again, it's going to split over here. And you see it kept this split over here because I switched them. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's not as confusing as it might seem. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty cool because you can really sort of divide things up and be really specific about it. So close this and then do the shift backspace. Nope, meta backspace. Now it's on the bottom. Meta enter. Now I split it. Meta backspace again. Now it's on the right. So you kind of see how it'll just keep splitting out like that. So, all right, Grubs. Mr. Adam, thank you for visiting. I appreciate you coming over and saying hi and listening to me ramble. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Good luck, brother. Yeah, Vince, capital F hence the shift. Yeah. All right, and so I can use my mouse to switch around, which is great, but then I can also, I believe, what is it? I know it's I think it's a tab. Here I go again. Oh, I had lost my capture, that is. Move between windows, Win and arrow keys. Move windows, Win, Shift, arrow keys. Okay, that sounds good. Win and arrow keys, and here I am shifting. It's really kind of light and hard to see, but I am shifting. And Win, Shift, arrow moves things. Well, that's fun. And see, it's keeping the proportion. This is an interesting thing I really didn't quite understand when I first looked at toggling window managers. It keeps proportions of windows. So when you move things around, it knows that this is sort of a larger window. So as I move it around, it still retains a large amount of space. And it is actually, it's melding, it will push itself into the columns, but it will try to give itself space, which is so it's trying to keep those proportions, which is really interesting. And different tiling managers handle that nesting and proportional aspect of it differently. And I don't really remember at this point what i3 does specifically, but some of them are using like the what is the Fibonacci sequence, where it's sort of like, you know, exponentially dividing it up as you go. All right, so that's how we move windows. We shift where they're opening, toggle our layout mode. Win Shift F was focused window full screen, and Win F was floating. So that really wasn't what I wanted there. But if I went to, let's say, a configuration panel, so I wanted to open up Bluetooth settings, and I hit that, and then I hit F, it's floating as the whole thing now, which is interesting. But I also see a Windows control, which is really weird. Usually floating isn't full screen, but maybe I'm just doing it wrong. Yeah, you know what? We're coming up on an hour and a half. It's 10:30. I know it's getting late for folks. I'm getting a little tired, a little punchy. It's been a long day, and I think I'm running out of. I'm starting to test patience, and I think I'd rather spend another couple hours with this on my own. I'm gonna take some notes and put together some better sort of focused thoughts on like getting around. I'll put together something like, you know, here's how to do these tasks that you would normally do, and how to do and jump into the X resource configuration and stuff like that, and come back to everybody with a better idea of how to get started. This was more or less me getting started, and I'd like to help others get started a little better than what I have here. So anyway, thanks for coming. I really appreciate you guys stopping by, and we'll be doing something again very soon. Probably, if not tomorrow, maybe Tuesday night. So until then, thanks for joining. It's been a pleasure to see you. I appreciate you coming and saying hi, and I will see you real soon. All right, good night, everybody.